Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. After just more than 1 month of campaigning, the whirlwind federal election came to a close last night, with the Liberal Party of Canada clinging to power after 10 years of governing the country. A lot happened last night. First-time wins, significant losses, and party leaders in turmoil. APTN Sav Jonesa gives us this look at what you might have missed.
After a nail-biting election, it's official. Liberal leader Mark Carney will keep his title as the Prime Minister of Canada. With around 150 polls left to report their ballots as of 4:30 p.m. Eastern, the numbers are looking more and more concrete. Elections Canada shows the Liberal minority government now holds 169 seats, 25 more than the Conservatives, their official opposition. The Liberals would need 3 more seats to form a majority government. The NDP fell from grace, winning only 7 seats, 18 less than the previous federal election. That means they've lost official party status, which requires 12 seats. And their leader, Jagmeet Singh, announced he would step down after being defeated in his own riding. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre also came up short in his riding, a seat he has held since 2004, but asserts he will stay on as party leader for now. The Bloc Québécois won 22 seats and the Green Party walked away with 1. All the provinces east of the Prairie saw the Liberals win the majority of electoral districts in their province. The 3 Prairie provinces stand in contrast as Conservatives made the largest impact in the polls. The Liberals saw a narrow victory in British Columbia, winning only 1 more seat than the Conservatives. Because of lower populations, the territories each have 1 seat in Parliament. Nunavut's went to the NDP, and both Yukon and Northwest Territories seats went to the Liberals. As of 4:30 p.m. Eastern, preliminary numbers boast this election officially saw the largest voter turnout in 32 years. More than 68% of eligible voters participated in the election. That's roughly 19.5 million out of a possible 28.5 million registered. These numbers will continue to climb as polls finish reporting, and they don't include additional voters who registered on Election Day. Of the 45 Indigenous candidates running in 35 ridings across Canada, 11 were victorious and will hold seats in Parliament. In comparison, last federal election saw 12 of 77 Indigenous candidates being elected. 5 of the 11 who won this term are incumbents in their districts. They are Conservative Mark Dalton, NDPers Leah Gazan and Laurie Idlout, Liberal Jaime Baptiste, and Bloc Québécois Simon Pierre Savard Tremblay. Incumbents who lost their seats are NDP Blake Desjardins and Liberals Mark Cyr and Vance Badaway. We also saw a First Nations candidate win a seat long held by an incumbent. Liberal Rebecca Chartrand swept up the votes from 17-year NDP incumbent Nikki Ashton in the Churchill-Kiiwetinoong-Eski riding by 15 percentage points. Now let's see how these changes make a difference in our communities and country. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Well, election 2025 included a number of upsets, including a big one in the Ottawa area riding of Carleton, where a Liberal candidate knocked off the leader of the opposition last night. APTN's Fraser Needham has that story.
Parliamentary privilege.
Pierre Poilievre was first elected in 2004, and then again for 6 straight elections. But that ended Monday night when Liberal candidate Bruce Fanjoy defeated the Conservative leader. APTN News profiled the Carleton riding during the campaign, and this is what Fanjoy had to say.
My opponent is a career politician, and I think that people are looking for candidates with real life experience. In my case, I had a long business career, successful business career. I've also been a long time community volunteer. I didn't see myself running for office one day, but eventually came to the conclusion that someone had to defeat Pierre Poilievre.
Liberal Prime Minister Mark Carney, who is also an economist and a former governor of the Bank of Canada, also framed himself as not a career politician. Carney was elected in an adjacent riding of Nepean last night and mentioned Fanjoy in his victory speech.
Bruce. Yes, Bruce Fanjoy. I'm looking forward to working with Bruce Fanjoy. Fantastic. He will be a great MP.
APTN News reached out to Bruce Fanjoy's campaign on Tuesday, but he was not available for comment. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Winnipeg Centre was the site of an incredibly tight battle between the Liberals and the NDP. Well, NDP incumbent Leah Gazan ultimately declared a victory. Her party is now without status and a leader. Sierra Bettens takes a closer look.
It was a moment of excitement and relief for NDP MP Leah Gazan and her supporters. After a tight race between the NDP incumbent and Liberal challenger Rahul Walia, Gazan secured the Winnipeg Centre seat for a third term.
People told me this was going to be a tough campaign, but, you know, we're a special community, and community came out for me in droves, and I'm so touched.
But the excitement was also bittersweet. As Gazan reclaimed her seat, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh resigned after losing his.
I'm only focused on tonight. Certainly we have to take some time and reflect on how we need to rebuild as a party. My focus has always been Winnipeg Centre, the beautiful people in my community.
Paul Thomas, a professor emeritus of political studies at the University of Manitoba, says losing party status comes with significant setbacks.
Being an official party in the House of Commons brings you opportunities in terms of procedures, time in question period. It brings you places on the committee system that operates in the House of Commons, studying bills and studying policy areas and so on.
Gazan has advanced several Indigenous commitments at a federal level through NDP support. They include the Red Dress Alert pilot program from MMIWG2S and a House of Commons motion to recognize what happened in residential schools as an act of genocide. But Thomas says the loss of seats and party status could hinder the NDP's ability to push the Liberals to advance Indigenous issues.
They had a working partnership with the Liberals, and whatever else you might say about Justin Trudeau, he was identified with the Indigenous reconciliation file. He did make some progress on that file, and part of that presumably came because of pressure from his partner in the coalition, the informal coalition.
Despite the NDP's losses, Gazan says she remains committed to serving the people of Winnipeg Centre.
We were in the fight of our life in Winnipeg Centre. And you know why we won? We won because we believe in human rights at the centre in Winnipeg.
Gazan is one of 11 Indigenous candidates who won in their ridings this election. The NDP now holds 7 of 344 seats, down from 25 in the 2021 federal election. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
For more on the results and what happens in the days ahead, we spoke with Cindy Woodhouse-Niepenack, the National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations, earlier today. Here's some of what the National Chief had to say.
Look, we're going to be back to work in Ottawa first thing tomorrow morning, making sure that we're pushing our issues to making sure that the water legislation that was committed to First Nations gets back on track. We'll be talking to all political parties on all of these issues, as we have been during the campaign. There's always, I just think we can't focus on that. We have to focus on getting work done, and there's too many issues left outstanding that we need progress. And we have to close the gaps that exist. And in order to make Canada one of the head of a G7 country, Canada is going to have to invest in First Nations people very quickly to close that gap. They had a commitment to close the infrastructure gap to 2030, which means more schools being built, more homes being built, investments into our children to make sure that Jordan's Principle and is running the way that it should, and at the same time making sure that kids have access to healthcare and First Nations have access to healthcare. So lots of issues that need to be dealt with that are not being, that have been kind of slow in the past few months because there's been all this political unrest in Ottawa. And I think that I'm glad that there's a government now, because it hadn't been. I mean, I went to the Pope's funeral this weekend, and that was a bit chaotic because there wasn't really a solid government here at home to be able to organize that in a good way and to make sure that that's moving. So little things like that, you kind of recognize it as, and knowing that we have to go back to Ottawa to get the work done. So we'll be there. We'll be pushing every single day on all these issues.
National Chief, interesting days ahead with the National Chief over on our website or on our APTN News YouTube page. We have a lot more election coverage to come tonight, including stories about 2 Indigenous candidates heading to Ottawa. Stick around. Welcome back. Well, as you heard, the NDP suffered a major loss at the polls right across Canada, and they have now lost official party status in the House of Commons. APTN's Tina House was at party leader Jagmeet Singh's headquarters and has more for us in this story.
Here at NDP headquarters in South Burnaby, party leader Jagmeet Singh and his wife entered the room filled with his supporters.
I want to take a moment to congratulate Prime Minister Carney on his victory. He has an important job to do to represent all Canadians and to protect our country and its sovereignty from the threats of Donald Trump. Tonight and every night, all of us here, we're on Team Canada. We want Canada to thrive, and we're going to continue to fight for Canada.
The election did not go as planned, and the NDP has lost official party status in the House of Commons. It's something that hasn't happened since 1993 under the leadership of Audrey McLaughlin. However, the following election, 1997, the NDP bounced back with official party status once again, until now. Jagmeet Singh also came in third in his own riding of South Burnaby, prompting a difficult decision from Singh.
Tonight, I've been informed a party leader that I'll be stepping down as party leader as soon as an interim leader can be appointed.
Siobhan Vipond is the Executive Vice President of the Canadian Labour Congress.
A bittersweet evening tonight. I think we're, obviously not at the end of it, but it's good to see that the conservative ideas haven't made it. I think people turn those down, but unfortunately it has meant that in areas the strategic vote has meant the loss of some really strong New Democrats, and that's a loss of some really strong voices speaking up for workers and community.
Kim Wright has been a New Democrat for 30 years.
We always kept our eye on the prize, and still do, of who we're actually doing this for, why we do this. It isn't because of some glorious thing in Parliament or fancy anything else. It's for people. How do you make lives better for Canadians and for our communities and to help one another? So we haven't lost sight of that, even though we lost a few seats tonight.
The New Democratic Party held on to 7 seats this time around, down from 25. Jagmeet Singh left his supporters with some final words.
Choosing to commit your life to politics obviously comes with some sacrifice, but we choose this life because of the chance to change the country we love for the better. We may lose sometimes, and those losses hurt, it's tough. But we are only defeated if we stop fighting. We're only defeated when we believe that those that tell us that we can never dream of a better Canada, a fairer Canada, a more compassionate Canada. I have met New Democrats from coast to coast to coast who will never back down, even when they're told that there's no room for them at the table.
In 2017, Jagmeet Singh became the first practicing Punjabi Sikh to ever be elected to lead a national party. He served as MP from 2019 to 2025 for the Burnaby South riding. An interim leader has not been announced as of yet. Tina House, APTN National News.
It was at the top of the list for the 36 ridings identified as a swing riding by the Assembly of First Nations. Churchill-Kiiwetinoong-Aski riding in Manitoba was a huge upset for the NDP, but again in a seat being held by an Indigenous candidate. With more, here's T.R. Wheatley.
The people have spoken!
Liberal candidate Rebecca Chartrand celebrated a huge win, taking the 17-year NDP stronghold riding Churchill-Kiiwetinoong-Aski. The crowd that gathered inside the South Beach Casino in Broken Head, Ojibwe Nation was small, but had many key influential people around her from all corners of her riding. While Broken Head isn't a community in her riding, it borders it, and the casino is co-owned by many First Nations in Churchill-Kiiwetinoong-Aski. Amongst her first words after her win, a promise to her constituents.
We need major bridge building in this riding because we need to make sure that this riding is a centerpiece as we start re-envisioning the Canadian economy.
Churchill-Kiiwetinoong-Aski covers about 75% of Manitoba, a huge riding that Chartrand canvassed until the very end. Spending the last day here in Sagkeeng Anishinaabe Nation, door-knocking and offering people rides to the polls until they closed. Within the Churchill-Kiiwetinoong-Aski region, there are 38 First Nations, and Sagkeeng Anishinaabe Nation is the furthest south. E.J. Fontaine is the chief here and also spent Election Day getting his members to the polls, hoping to swing the vote from orange to red.
Because we need somebody that's going to be part of the government. In the past 17 years, no disrespect to Nikki, but she hasn't delivered any real tangible results for our people here.
Fontaine says despite the riding covering 42,000 kilometers, the issues are the same. Poor infrastructure like lack of housing, access to clean drinking water, and poor connectivity in both internet and roads, with many First Nations on the east side of Winnipeg in need of an all-weather road. Just as important, an investment in people by developing trade programs to not only tackle the unemployment rate, but to build up communities.
Nobody better to do that than one of our own, Anishinaabe Kwe lady, woman, that understands our plight.
A plight Chartrand says made her turn to politics in the first place, with goals of tackling the ongoing violence on Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people.
Right, I lost 2 of my own friends, and we had a cousin who went missing too. So these are the issues that bring us to this work, and I had done a lot of work around MMIW.
Work that many at this celebration say needs to start now, including Logan Morasti, a youth from Brochet who joined the campaign to learn more about the issues himself.
To the good to come, and congratulations.
Tiara Wheatley, APTN National News, Brokenhead.
Well, after electoral boundaries changed and the longtime Conservative incumbent stepped down, Northern Saskatchewan also elected a new party. Well, Saskatchewan usually votes Conservative. That changed yesterday. Here's APTN's Rachel May now with the MP who turned half the province red.
But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of voters out there that aren't buying the Conservative line and argument anymore. And we want to be able to share with all of Saskatchewan, with a particular focus on Northern Saskatchewan, as I've indicated, with all of Saskatchewan, what exactly the federal government is hoping to do to help Saskatchewan and include Saskatchewan and bring hope and opportunity to Saskatchewan without it going through the Conservative lens.
In 2019 and 2021, the Conservative Party swept all 14 seats in Saskatchewan. But last night, a large part of the province flipped. Buckley Belanger won the Desnethie-Missinippi-Churchill River riding for the Liberals, with just over 65% of the vote. Conservative Jim LeMeg came second with just over 25%, followed by NDP's Doug Racine with just over 9%. Although Desnethie-Missinippi-Churchill River is just one seat, it covers all of northern Saskatchewan. Belanger said the size of the riding means there's plenty of opportunity to represent Saskatchewan federally.
It's a huge piece of land. There's so much wealth on that piece of land. And what we're trying to do is make sure we connect the issues and challenges of our community to the wealth of that land so we can forge a better path forward for our children and grandchildren.
Belanger said he's been knocking on doors, hearing 4 key things voters expect from him as their MP.
Number 1 is you stay humble. Number 2 is you work hard. Number 3, be very aggressive. And of course, number 4, do not forget the folks that got you there. So I got my standing orders and we're going to follow it into a T.
He said Saskatchewan is starting to embrace the Liberals, and he believes Prime Minister-elect Mark Carney is the most qualified to lead.
So in these tumultuous times, he's been a solid leader, and you're going to see over several years what Carney can do. And I'm telling people of the province, after you've seen what he can do, then you'll know that he is a true leader and hopefully elect more Saskatchewan Liberal MPs as we move forward.
Belanger hopes Saskatchewan will elect more Liberal MPs next election. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Votes were still being counted in a number of races today, including in Nunavut, with a winner just being declared this afternoon. We'll have more on that after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Marian Francis shared this scene of the spring melt from McLean Creek, Alberta, which she says she captured on Earth Day. Thanks so much for sharing. You can send your photos to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. The numbers are in from Nunavut, and NDP incumbent Lori Idlut has narrowly won her seat back with a lead of only 77 votes. Idlut finished the election with 2,945 votes, while Liberal candidate Kilivak Kabluna followed close behind with 2,868 votes. Conservative candidate James Arick finished third. In a conversation with APTN during the campaign, Idlut said if she were re-elected, she would work to resolve the housing crisis in Nunavut and help fortify Arctic sovereignty by improving marine infrastructure and airports. A familiar face in the Yukon won that territory's only seat in the House of Commons. Sarah Connors has more.
Liberal incumbent candidate Brendan Hanley received a warm welcome at his election watch party Monday night. Hanley will return to Ottawa to represent the Yukon riding after winning close to 53% of the vote.
I am so proud to be part of a re-elected Liberal government, and
prior to entering politics, Hanley was the territory's chief medical officer of health and helped guide the territory through the COVID-19 pandemic. He took a leave of absence to run for the Liberals in 2021. Hanley says he plans to continue to advocate for Yukoners on issues like housing, climate change, and affordability. He also hopes to advance reconciliation efforts.
Reconciliation continues to be a journey that we need to continue on in partnership with First Nations and always listening to First Nation priorities to the communities.
Of course, it's no secret a fourth Liberal win didn't seem possible just months ago.
How many times have I heard over the last 6 months about polls and how bad the Liberals were going to lose this, that we wouldn't have a party left?
But the tide shifted after the re-election of U.S. President Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau's resignation as Liberal Party leader. Now with Mark Carney at the helm, Hanley says there's hope as the Liberals forge ahead with a minority government.
Canadians wanted a change. And change is happening, whether we like it or not. Under Mark Carney's leadership, we will stand up to Donald Trump and his tariff threats, and his attacks on our national sovereignty.
With the party in power once again, Hanley is confident his government can and will rise to the challenge. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
And that is all the news we could fit into your APTN National News for this Tuesday. There is much more election news and reaction over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Now stay tuned. A special episode of Face to Face is next as our Nouvelle Nationale host Kim Sullivan sits down with longtime AFN chief Ghislaine Picard. That's next. I'm Dennis Ward, Marcy McGuitch. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.